And it looks like we are live. Hey, adventurers, welcome back to another author interview. This is with my friend Andrew Meredith, and so I'll let him introduce himself. We'll start with that.
Hello, I'm Andrew. Oh, I can't want to lean that way. All right, let's go right here. Here we go. All right, so I'm Andrew D. Meredith. There we go. Either way, it's fine. I'm Andrew D. Meredith. I am a fantasy author of currently 7 books and a few more on the way post haste in the next year. Anything from epic fantasy with lots of paladins to Slavic fantasy in my Needle and Leaf series, and then cozy fantasy, including Quaint creatures, which has a new cover.
Yes, it does. Very pretty. So, I don't know if I've told you this directly, but I'm pretty sure you're my favorite living author currently.
Well, thank you. I'll try to keep it that way. About the living part, I mean.
Well, yeah, that would be helpful. I have to do that because then I don't have to worry about comparing you to Tolkien too much.
Oh, sure. That's fine. I can live in his shadow. It's just fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're making your own way very, very nicely.
Thank you.
Got lots of different things that you're working on.
A lot of fun with everything that I do.
Yeah. Well, let's start off with the hard one then.
Okay.
Which is your favorite series?
What is my favorite overall series that I've written
Yeah, of the ones that you're working on. So that would be Needle and Leaf and Collation Saga, and then Sideways Tales.
The Collation Saga.
Collation.
Yeah.
You do have a favorite child?
Hands down. It's my favorite child. Yeah, the other ones are just there to pay the bills, right? No, what bills? The Collation Saga is my baby that I've been working on since I was a kid, and then I completely revamped it, and now we have what we have now. And so I write other books so that not just to give myself like a mental break to make sure that the Collation Saga is better with each book, but also to pay the bills. So that I'm creating other entry points, because a long series can be difficult to catch people on, if you're not catching them right away. So yeah, but it's my baby. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it is why I write.
I think it's my favorite as well. So
yeah,
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, but I mean, what I'm writing, the other books that I write, I don't write what I don't want to read.
Yeah,
I should say.
I totally get
so I'm
that.
not just writing for the sake of writing. I'm writing the other series because they still have a place in my heart, just at very different types of places in my heart. So yeah.
That being said, the Collation being my favorite as well. I did just read the first 2 books in Needle and Leaf this year so far, and very, very much enjoyed both of those.
Thank you.
The first one, Thrice, it was kind of like everybody describes it, and it's exactly what it's described as, but it's so much more. And I wasn't expecting that so much more, which I don't know why I wasn't, because I've read your stuff and talked to you enough now. But then I knew that it was going to be so much more in the second book, and then you dialed it up like 100, and I'm like, fine then.
I wasn't expecting to dial it up the way that I dialed it up too, and then I do it again in book 3.
That's I can't wait. I'm excited for that.
Me
one
too.
As well.
Yeah.
So, well, I don't own all of your books physically yet that are published, but I have a good chunk of them.
Nice.
We've got the previous cover for Quaint Creatures. I've got previous cover for Thrice.
Yep.
Fleeting
Word. Yep. I forgot to bring one copy of that up. I've got one downstairs. Yeah.
Previous cover of Deathless Beast. So I've got most of the previous covers.
Yeah.
This one is only partially yours, but
it is.
Advent of Winter.
Yes.
It's a fun story. As is your 3 Coins for the Judge. Is that what it's titled? The short little novella. That one's very fun too.
And 3 Coins from the Judge takes place before. It takes place like 2 weeks before the story in the Winter anthology.
Yeah, I want to go back and reread the one in Advent of Winter at this point.
I need to too, because I need to write the next one. So,
but I did enjoy both of those as well.
Thank you.
And then, I've got them stacked wrong. I've got the new cover for Deathless Beast.
Yes.
And new cover for Bone Shroud. And currently my sister-in-law has Gloves of Eon, so I don't have that one, but I do have
that's good news.
Dread Knight.
So awesome.
I keep giving my sister-in-law all my friends' books. So I gave her Tori's books, and I've given your books, and I've given her Mike Mullman's books. I'm trying
Yeah.
to pretty soon here. I'll do AR with them. So
Nice. That's awesome.
working through them slowly. But
yeah. Well, she's already to Gloves of Eon, so that's good.
Yeah. Yes. So
Yeah.
I think we'll get to book 4. You probably won't have book 5 out before she gets there, but
no, I haven't started
likely,
it yet.
Not likely.
I have it outlined. I have a loose outline. I have a decent outline for number 5. I'm currently outlining like the next 6 all at once to try to get an idea, and so I've got a very, very loose outline for 5 through 10, and then I've got a good loose outline of 5 through 7, which will be a kind of a middle trilogy. And then I've got a strong outline just for 5 itself. And so I'm trying to make room so I can write it in the second half of this year. So I have 2 projects I'm working on that I need to get done by May, so that I can then spend the rest of the year writing some short stories and book 5.
Yeah. I'm excited for them all.
Me too.
You do have a story coming out in the Honor anthology as well. You want to talk just briefly about that one?
I do.
As well?
It is a collation story about a new paladin character who is of the silent vow, and he is sent on an assignment to a new bastion that he's going to be stationed at, and so he goes through a bit of a self-discovery and revisiting the life he left to become a paladin as a young boy. So it's a bit of a track that way. It was a fun one to write, and I've already figured out how to plot him into book. I forget if he'll show up in 5 or 6 as like a bit part now. But he was a brand new character. It was fun to write because he's a bit of a jerk. No, he's not a jerk. He's just arrogant. He's arrogant.
Not quite Dane level.
He is not Dane. He's not Dane. He just thinks very, very, very highly of himself.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll deal with it.
Yes.
I'm sure it'll be fun. The other thing that that you just released, or I don't know how that exactly works. That was just released is your what is it called? The Purgatory of Martin Merriweather.
Yes, in Steampunk magazine. So
yes.
That's that Steampunk. Sorry, not Steampunk. Give me a second. Incensepunk. Incensepunk.com is where you can find it. And it's the second post right now because they have another one since then.
I do have it linked in the description as well. So
perfect.
But that one you just kind of dropped on my plate and told me, hey, read this. And I said, okay. And I read it, and you do some interesting stuff with that, and it's very fun, but it's very much far more on the science fiction side of things.
Yes,
with still a fantasy flavor to it.
Yeah,
and I very much enjoyed that one. I guess I did write down one question to ask about that. How did you come up with and work out that story, the Purgatory of Martin Merriweather?
I had the idea of the monastery that it takes place in. I don't know, more than 10 years ago. I had an early idea, and then someone else, and it's come like every once in a while I'll remember that I had the idea. I'm like, oh yeah. And the last time I thought about it was about a year ago, and I was like, I forgot about that idea that I had, and it was a bit inside of a larger science fiction I thought about writing, and I've just never gotten around to it, using frequencies and things like that. And so when I rehashed it, I started thinking about it, and I was thinking about submitting it to Incensepunk. I realized I was not sure at all how it worked, because it's a time travel story. Yeah. And I needed it. It actually was even simpler originally, but it wasn't working where I wanted multiple characters at the monastery, all in the middle of their own thing, not giving anything away. But so then I thought about, okay, how could I do it with just Martin Merriweather? And then the story just kind of unfolded from there, and I started just discovery writing it from the beginning. And I think I wrote it in like a day and a half, and just hammered that thing out, and then went back and fixed it, obviously, because you don't write a time travel story and then say good enough. So I've since seen Christopher Nolan's Tenet, which is not exactly the same, but has some similarities to it in plot. And I'm very happy with what I did. So I would say if you like Tenet, go read Martin Merriweather, Purgatory of Martin Merriweather. And yeah, it was so much fun to write. Yeah.
So for some reason, I'm able to follow scientific concepts fairly well, generally.
Right.
And so Nolan hasn't really caused me issues with Interstellar, although I do need to rewatch that. With the other big one, Inception, I didn't really have problems with either of those ones. In Tenet, I understood it, but there's things that I need to rewatch it to get.
Yes.
And so I wasn't really expecting you to be able to confuse me that much with the sci-fi book. And then I read it, and I'm following it up until like the climax, and then it's like, okay, now I don't understand. I gotta read this. But it was great. I very much enjoyed it. So
I love time travel, and I'm a
recommend.
stickler for bad time travel. I don't like time travel. I believe that if a time travel story will always imply that either time can be changed or it cannot be changed. And a good time travel story will either stay consistent and prove it, or in disproving it, blow your mind away. That makes you realize that the theory was wrong the whole time, and which should be it is. What I do not like is when you're in the middle of a story that time cannot be changed, and then you're watching it, you're like, they changed time right there, and they never go back and address it, and they just say you never changed time. As I guess you did. So
I don't
bothered. Like that. So
yeah, I agree. I also get bothered when they use different rules for the time travel. As in, like, they set up one set of rules and then they change them. And anyways, I don't like that either. So time travel is often one for me that, while I can enjoy the stories, I generally don't like the use of time travel because I pick the holes in it. But I didn't find that with Martin Merriweather. So I enjoyed that aspect as well. So yeah. All right. Got several things here that I want to talk about as we go through. Let's see. So we kind of talked with you talking about how you wrote Merriweather. How do you refer to that one? What's the way that you refer to that story, the shortened version, or do you just say the Purgatory of Martin Merriweather every time?
I say that the time travel sci-fi that I wrote.
Time travel sci-fi.
Yeah. I a lot of times names come to me early. That one was named afterwards, and I don't remember he was called Martin Merriweather when I first wrote it, and so I think that was in the second draft when I changed his name to that to finish off a lot of the little bit of hand holding I was doing. Other times names will come to me, like the original 2017 version of the Collation Saga was Bone Shroud. And then it changed to something else, and then it was Bonds of Promise, and then when I put them into the book 1 and 2 of what they are now, number 2 was Bone Shroud because it was the point of that one. But the story was always called Bone Shroud. Early on, it might have been like a bone something else than Shroud. I forget, but yeah.
Okay. It wasn't specifically a question about titles, although I do like titles as well. And actually, I find that a title can spur on story ideas and thoughts for me as well.
Yes.
So, yeah. But specifically, you while you were talking about your time travel story that you wrote, you mentioned you were talking a little bit about that one. You were talking a little bit about the way that that you just words are going out of my brain.
I Discovery wrote that one. Effectively.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Discovery wrote it.
Yes.
And so my question was going to be, what's your normal writing process like? How is it normal for you to discovery write, or do you tend to plot?
No. Short stories can be discovery written easier because of the fact that they're short, right? So even if but even Martin Merriweather, I had an outline actually of the first half probably before he enters the madness. So the first part that was the core concept, was entering the monastery up to the madness. So what happened before that, I don't remember when I wrote that, but it was like because I wrote the first part, it then informed the rest part. So that one had to be discovery written because of the fact that it has that looping forward motion, and I needed to be just examined. But even when I write like the Hrolgren detective stories, the Templar files, those ones I outline because I am outlining a crime, and the same is true of my other novels, though not Quaint Creatures. We can get back to that. All my bigger fantasies, I am a very heavy outliner. I keep spreadsheets now with like who's where, because I want to keep track of where each of the characters are as well, and I want to see kind of a broad idea of what's happening. But I very early on, so back in 2017 when I really started writing again, I had been prepping myself. I had been watching or listening to Writing Excuses with Brandon Sanderson and learning all these things about writing. And I'd already kind of outlined a little bit of what the Collation Saga was going to be at the time. And from Writing Excuses, I decided I needed to take a step back and write a series of short stories. And I wrote about 5 or 6 short stories. Couple, like one of which has seen the light of day. Other ones might eventually, if I rewrite them. But I wanted to write a series of 7,000 word short stories, and so I set myself that task of I'm going to write 7,000 short, and I plotted them out to have like 7 plot points, and then through that kind of discovery process of myself, discovered that I write in 1,000 word to 1,500 word bullet point increments.
Okay. And
I've kept that rule for myself since then. Shorter books have shorter bullet points. Bigger books like Collation have about 1,500 word bullet points. And that lets me say, okay, I want 152,000 word book. It's going to have 152 plot points. Yeah. And if I split that in by 3 bullet points for every chapter, I know it's going to be 47 or whatever that is chapters. So by doing that, I can then be it's not, and when I say bullet points, it's like in this line, it's Hannon and Ralia leave the chapel. Hannon and Ralia are attacked by a manticore. So I know in this chapter, bop, bop, bop is going to happen. Right. What happens between that? I like to say I let the actors decide. So it's like writing a stage play, but not writing any of the dialogue, and saying, here is what I need you to do. At this point, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern need to show up and accost Hamlet. Well, what's going to happen then? I don't know. Figure it out. But by the end of the scene, there's actors who are going to show up. Do what you want. So it's kind of an improv acting. It's kind of how I treat my characters. Yeah. Because if I try to plan their dialogue out too much, I actually end up wasting my time, because those planned conversations end up happening somewhere else already, and so I end up with a gap in my timeline that I have to fill with something, and then it feels forced. So so that's usually how I go. And like with Thrice, it's so episodic, I was able to literally write down like 30 episodes and then split, or 15 episodes, and then split those in 2, and that created 2 chapters per episode to treat it as an episodic storytelling for Thrice specifically. It changed a little bit for Fourscore, but so I'm very methodical in how I plan things so that I can get a good idea of how things are going to show up energy wise, and then write them. So yeah.
Interesting. It's so I mean that makes a lot of sense to me, the bullet point type outline where you've got, this is the thing that I need to hit and need to make it happen, but what happens, how I get between those, that makes a lot of sense to me. What do you do for endings? How do you come up with endings? Is that something that you have immediately from the beginning, or is that something that you slowly develop, or just come up with as the bullet points and you say this is a good ending point? Or
it's usually I try to plot it out as much as I can. I don't write long endings. Like I think I've gotten into the habit. What did Leon the other day was doing a review on Patricia's Butcher Baker, and he said that it ended with a terminal ending. I think we called it, which is from Lovecraft. which is funny because I don't actually like Lovecraft. So I didn't learn it from him, from Lovecraft, but I kind of like terminal endings.
Interesting.
So like I had a few people comment on like the end of Needle and Leaf. At the end of Fife and Drum, there's an epilogue and then it's over. There's no, here's the happy daisies of all the things that have happened and how everybody's lives are now.
Right.
I just kind of, it's over because my climax was the important part for me. And I try to do the same. I still tie things off, like even with collation. I mean, I still try to do like, what I always try to do like an afterthought for every character. But I try to keep it really short because I'm just trying to kind of like, in a lot of anime, you'll have like during the credits, it'll show more things that are happening in their lives because you're kind of, if you want to leave the movie theater, you can, but if you sit and wait, you get to see what happened to them afterwards.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that without wasting people's time. So maybe it's the people pleaser in me that I don't want to waste people's time at the very end. It's like you got to the end, so thank you. Now go and write a review. So rather than waste your time with 15 epilogues. Yeah. But if an epilogue is called for, a long one, when I get to the end of book 10, I'm sure I'll have a giant, multi-tiered, multi-chapter epilogue just to get everything tied off. But maybe I won't. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. And I'm excited for whatever happens with it. That's okay. So you kind of just end the story, but and I don't mean it to sound like that, but the way that you approach the writing of the ending is in a let's just wrap it up and not worry about showing the life afterwards so much. Is there a way that you can, because this is my problem as a writer, or a storyteller of whatever you want to call me. When I look at a story, I can only complete the story if I know the climax. And if I don't know that climax, then because I do a lot of the point by point, connect the dots type stuff as well. So if I have the beginning and I have the ending, writing the story is not a problem for me, or discovering what that at the very least what that story is going to be is not a problem for me. It's coming up with that ending, because there's lots of, and we mentioned titles. I'll come up with the title and be like, oh, that's this is the idea that comes with it, this is the vibe of the story, this is how it begins, and then I start writing it and I have no idea what to do with it, how to wrap it up, how to end it, how to come up with that climax. I guess, do you have any tips or recommendations or anything for
yes,
helping me understand that?
When we know that our friend Tori is going to say, take a drink when I say this. But K.M. Weiland's book, Writing Archetypal Character Arcs, is an incredible book. And if you're feeling that you can't afford it, then go listen to the podcasts, because she did do it as podcast series back in 2020. The very, very short of it is that instead of having the hero's arc and the heroine's arc, there's actually 6 arcs, and it goes through the whole life cycle of a person from maiden, hero, queen, king, crone, mage. And each one of them deals with their life circumstances of whether they are a masculine type hero, and not necessarily male hero, but the masculine story is the fighting the dragon, fighting the tyrants, fighting evil, versus a feminine arc of the maiden's arc, which is, accepting, and the queen and the crone are about discovering who you are. I say all that because when I read that, it like blew my mind and expanded everything I can possibly do with a plotting. And I use that extensively in the Collation Saga. And it helps me fill in and prevent any kind of mid-story lull. Because every single character is going on a different arc, and the speeds of their arc are not contained in a single book.
Yeah. So
I can say that Jinid's arc is the book. It goes through books 1 and 2 all the way through Bone Shroud, and that's his hero's arc is happening at that point. Yeah. And because I've spread his over 2 books, then when I have Hannon going through 2 different arcs in book 1 and 2, there's a bit of leapfrogging that's happening at all times. The reason I say that is that then I can say, rather than, okay, how do I end this book? I was thinking is, how do I end the Collation saga of the first two books, where how are they all going to end up at the denouement, of which Katiam's not. She's doing her own thing as well, and she has her own arc. So, but I don't need to solve that. She's doing her own thing. They're doing their own thing. And if I can just aim for that, then I can use other people's other point of view story arcs to leg through lulls that are happening in someone else's story and get myself to the point. Then the only real difficulty is when you get to the end, you say, well, I guess I better remind everybody what's happening to Katiam right now, because her story ended. Her story ended 5 chapters ago. Right. I need to remind her that she's there. So, and that's just a day's work of fill, and not even fill. You know what I mean? It's reminding people where they're at to let you know they're going to be back next book. And, oh, by the way, they're now at a precipice, so that book 3 and 4, Katiam has a much larger arc that she has to go through. So, if you can start, maybe the solution then is to start looking at your secondary characters and how they can help the plot get to the point. And maybe it's by you, it's the reason I like to write 2 books at the same time, is because if I'm not feeling a book, or I'm not getting it, if I step aside and work on another project, I will either go head first into that other project and get a bunch done, or I'll be like, oh, nope, got it. And then I can run back over and fix the problem that's been staring at me. Where, like you said, you don't know where to go if you don't know where it's going.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just need to drive. Sometimes you just need to drive because there might be a lamppost around the next bend.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you do just have, that's where I will feel that my story is garbage, is I'm writing, oh, this is garbage. And it's not that it's garbage, it's that I don't know what's happening in the next chapter. I know what's happening on the next page, but not what's happening in the next chapter. And often when I get to the next chapter and I keep going, I'll go back and read what I wrote that I thought was garbage and realize, oh no, it was actually good. It was the process that I needed to get myself to the next chapter. So sometimes the answer is just do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is just skip it. There's plenty of times where I'm like, skip this, come back to this later. And either it's because it was a boring scene and I need to actually trim it up, or I don't know what's happening in this scene because the next scene is going to inform it. So I need to skip ahead a couple chapters, just keep writing, and then come back and fix the problems that have now been informed by the solutions that I've already come to. So like taking a book from my wife's writing as a mystery author. She writes the end first and then works everything backwards, because now she has the solutions that she can seed in early on. So yeah, there she is. There's Tori. So take a drink. I mentioned K.M. Moyland.
Okay. So that gives me something to work with. So part of the reason why I ask these questions, part of the reason why I like having these author interviews is because I get to talk to authors about their process and what works for them, and why it is that that they are able to complete a story, because, and I mean, like we've heard about the Save the Cat outline and all these different versions of an story outline and things like that, and they never really make a whole lot of sense to me. They don't click with the way that my brain works for storytelling. And so the last year, especially, and this year as well, one of my goals and one of the things that I've been really focusing on is learning what works for me as a storyteller, and how to make connections, how to make things work from beginning to end. And a lot of that has to do with me realizing I need an ending before I can really get started if I want to successfully complete something. And so, do you have any outlines like that, or just this one that you mentioned, the Cam Wayland one? Is that something that serves that same function for you?
In a way. So speaking of Save the Cat, the other day I watched a video of somebody writing about the 7 levels of writers, which I wasn't quite sure if I totally agreed with it, because it was like a beginner can use level 1, but only an expert can use level 7. And I was like, that's bull. No way. But it was basically things like going up through, like, the number 2 was the 3-act structure, then the 5-act structure, then the 7th-act structure, then Save the Cat. And then the 7th one was the toolbox. And it was like, I preach the toolbox all the time. I love the toolbox method. And the toolbox method is just that everything you learn from all the writers who are telling you how they do things is not correct. It's correct for them.
Right.
but you should listen to them so that you can take their tools into your toolbox. And then that's the whole point of the toolbox, is that like we all have toolboxes. It doesn't matter if you're a dude with a red toolbox out in your shed, or whether you're a knitter with a million different knitting needles that you don't use.
Yep.
You have one knitting needle you love. You have that one screwdriver that you use for everything that it should not be used for, from sticking into a light socket because you know it's a safe wooden handle and it won't shock you, to, you know, the point is that toolboxes provide an opportunity for you to solve solutions when the problems show up. So you might say, oh yeah. No, I cannot. I would say I do not do discovery writing. And then I wrote Quaint Creatures, which was a month-long binge of discovery writing. How did I do it? By listening to Tori talk about how she does discovery writing, by trying not to listen to other authors who we shall not name, who will say, oh, discovery writers are never make it in publishing, which is not true.
Yeah.
And it's just, you want to take those tools so that when you do come to that problem, you know the tool you need to pull out and try, even if it won't work. Like I can all day long really want to do, I would love to, I've tried to do dictation multiple times. Yeah. It has never worked for me.
Yeah.
But when I get in the mood of trying it and I go try it again, I'm like, I'm just better when I just write. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I do know how to write. And then I'll start writing a whole bunch because I'm reminded that I'm good at what I do. Yeah. So, yeah.
So I have another question that kind of tied into that, if I can remember it. In the meantime, though, I'll mention this because it's it goes along with the toolboxing that you're talking about. And one of my previous interviews was with J.R. Carroll, and he mentioned that one of the things he does is he imagines himself in the scene, watching and seeing what's going on. And so that's something that I have kind of been playing around with a little bit to see if because I'm such a visual reader and I can visually sees the thing exactly. I'm able to put myself into that world and look around the street or whatever and see what it looks like when the person's walking into the bar or whatever it is. I'm able to do that as a reader.
Yes.
And so I'm thinking, okay, well, let's try that as a writer. And what happens when I kind of put myself into the world in that sense as a writer and see what happens, what the progression is. And so that's one of those tools that I am trying out and seeing if it works for me. And I'm finding so far what little I've used of it. I don't have a ton of time to make use of it, but what little I have tried it, I'm not sure that it's completely successful, but it gives me something to work with.
Right. And are you a visual imaginer? Like, can you see images in your head? Yes. Yeah, that helps a lot. I mentioned already that I cast my characters, which is I actually will cast actors who I know as particular characters as characters. So like I don't just want Viggo Mortensen as Aragorn. I might say I would like to hire Viggo Mortensen as Captain Fantastic in this role. And then by casting a character, a person in my head, they will then outgrow that into the character I want them to be. But the same is true for my set dressing. I have in my head, I have a medieval bedroom that I use for everything. So it's actually from my first read through of Assassin's Apprentice, and it's Fitz's room in my head. But it's and because Buckkeep Castle in my head, which actually feeds back to from David Eddings, the castle in Cherrick. So my imagination goes all the way back to like how I imagine the farm in Sandaria to the castle in Cherrick is like the quintessential castle in my head. And I'll recast it. So like in Thrice, when Joven goes into the prince's room to hold him hostage, it's actually the same room that Fitz is in, only I put more furs in it in my head. And so then I can in my head, it's just a castle room. It's just a big bedroom, but I can then redescribe it by set dressing. So it's like I have a studio in my head and I'm just filming inside the same studio. And when I need to go on location, I'll go out to somewhere on location in my head and film that. So I would say that's a fantastic tool to lean into, where you can cast people and cast sets and set dress it in your brain so that you've got something locked and it creates a permanent memory for when you have to revisit.
Yeah. I feel like it's Ursula K. Le Guin that has a essay about and I forget what it is, but it's something about how you imagine the river that you know type thing. And
Yeah.
I might be wrong about who it
Robin
is.
Hobb said that. Robin Hobb said
Okay,
that.
Robin Hobb,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
But that's something that I think maybe because I live in a place with so many different rivers and streams that
Yeah.
I have so many to choose from.
Right.
And so I don't get locked into the one. But at that same time, I understood it. I resonated with it to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
And
she wrote most of Buckkeep from having lived on in the Straits going down from Alaska to the Puget Sound.
Yeah.
So all of those island and even though there's her pirates are almost non-tropical because it's all rivers coming out of Canada into the Pacific. And she talked about how we all have one river. And so she never describes a river because she wants you to imprint your river on the river that you see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. The other thing that I have kind of a little bit of a specific one for this, but in Foursquare, you talk about a forge or a furnace or something like that that he opens up and pulls a coal out of.
Right.
That image is so clear in my mind, and I have no idea why. I mean, I have worked with like wood stoves and stuff like that, so I have that image, but it's not even the same image as what I'm working with in Foursquare. So, anyways, that was that when you first started describing that, my imagination just like, whoa, I understand.
Excellent. So well, I'll be interested to see how you like the end of number 3 because there's some weird things happen with that. That I've had people are like, I don't get what was happening. I'm like, I'm okay with that. That's okay.
I'll try. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. So anyways, I didn't remember that other question that I had to ask you about. It was something about what we were talking about, but we'll move forward and continue on there. So and we've kind of barely touched on it, but what is your like history with writing? What is your writing process? Well, the writing process, yes, but also the history. How did you get into it? What made you want to be a writer and all that kind of stuff? And yeah, was there a specific time where you read something or watched something and or performed something and you said, this is it for me?
Actually, it was like age 12 reading the Bulgariad.
Okay.
5 times in a row. And I was writing that in Dragonlance, and I was like starting to do world building and writing total fanfic of that. And then all through college, I spent most of my classes writing notes, drawing characters from the books. So developing the Hrolgrin culture, especially. So Hrolgrins are like my elves in the sense, in like Tolkien's elves. Well, lots and lots of development for that. And so it was just a constant world building exploration all through high school and college. And life happened. I got married. I tried to write a book, and I have the manuscript, and it's awful. That was in 2010, and I thought it was pretty good. And I was lying to myself. It's not good. It's really not good. But I was writing other things at that point too. So I wanted to be a writer young, and then switched off into comic books and miniature sculpture, and both of those just fell apart. They fell through.
Yeah.
And then got into game design. Like board game design, which actually became a very short-lived career, and through that I got to do in-game writing and fiction. So it was like the bug was sparked out of a necessity to write better than those who were around me, who I didn't think were writing well. Even though I had written a really garbage book, the stuff I was writing for the in-game was better than I thought. I felt like I was seeing the forest for the trees better than others were, and so I was writing this in-game fiction stuff, and it just worked. And then life happened again, and I lost a job and started another one. And so there was a bit of a healing process. And so then writing kind of became a balm that helped me then come out of that into my fruition as an adult, I guess. And that's when 2017 happened, and I wrote like the new version of the Collation Saga, and then just kind of went from there. through pursuing publication to writing thrice because I wanted something different to work on, and then COVID happened, and then now we're here. So yeah.
Well, in light of this comment from Tori's, I kind of wonder if this might be a bit leading, but we'll ask it anyways.
Yeah.
And I'll let you pronounce the name.
Kavili. The Kavili. Okay. So the Kalatian Saga originally was a stereotypical fantasy world, except for the Hrograns, where there was humans and elves and dwarves, and then the Hrograns and the Tiakai, which is kind of funny that I took 4 books to finally show a Tiakai, given that have always been the big baddies in my world building. But I had developed all of this stuff, and I can't remember why it happened, but when I was working on it in 2017, I started switching out all of the animals for mythological animals. So instead of horses, it was Sleipnir. Instead of cats, it was manticores. And so that started to bleed through. And then my wife said, well, why do you still have elves in this? And I was like, I mean, it'd be kind of fun to do a world building and just change everybody out. And so I did. And so the Kavili were born of elves. But I really wanted to fight not having a elf but not elf trope. So I said, okay, how can I make them utterly inhuman? And ended up with amphibious giraffe with kangaroo prehensile tails. And so it was just they came out of a world building exploration. The Hrograns already had some weird things, like the fact that they have 2 thumbs. They have 4 fingers, 2 in the middle, and then a thumb on each side. So I was like, well, what can I do differently for the Kavili, just to do something fun? And so I gave them, I was reading up on squids, giant squids. So most squids have suckers, right, on their on the tentacles. But giant squids have hooks, and the hooks are 360-degree rotatable. So they'll actually just rotate in sockets. And that way, if they grab on like a whale or something, it's built to spin in a way that grabs and hooks. Anyway, so then I was like, well, what can I do fun for the Kavili? And I gave them a central thumb that comes, it isn't completely 100%, but the whole point is that it can go either left or right as needed. So it was just a fun, because why not? And then the Kavili just grew and grew and grew from that. And then it became more about each god of the pantheon creating their own people from whole cloth, as opposed to their own thing. So that is where they came from. They are still elves in that they are longevitied, but they don't live thousands of years. They live a couple hundred, I think. Whereas Hrograns do not. They only live to be about like 50 is their 60 is old for a Hrogran. But because of that, because I wanted to kind of flip the trope where in every fantasy humans are short-lived, and so they live life to the fullest. And it was like, okay, I guess I'm going to take that trope and ramp it up for Hrograns who only live 60, and so they really live life to the fullest from the moment they drop out of the womb, as opposed to waiting 12 years to get around to it. So
and that I really enjoyed and appreciated the exploration of the Hrogran culture in 3 Coins. That one, you work in a lot with the language, you work in a lot with their culture, and I just that's something that I always love. I always love exploring cultures and languages, and it's it stems from my love of Tolkien, absolutely. But
I'll say that story too specifically is a selfish story for me, because that story used to be in the Kalatian Saga. It was it was part of the original story. It was 35,000 words, and my wife said, you got to cut that out, and I was really angry about it. And it's like, no, it has to stay in, even though it's completely unrelated to the whole rest of the plot. And so she was right. 24 hours later, I was like, you're right, I'm sorry. And so I pulled it out. And so me revisiting that was my selfish, I still need to tell the story. And so they come a little, I read them a little slower because no one really knows they exist. But I've got a whole plan, and it does, Dratcha's story specifically will have important effects on future books, but I'm hoping to continue to make it in a way that you don't know unless you read it all. Like, it won't matter if you read the Templar files, but if you have, you'll get much better context of what's happening when humans are interacting with Hrograns.
It just seeing, I kind of already explained it. I don't need to say it again in the same words or even different words, but exploring their culture and seeing how he's treated, how um, yeah, there's just a whole lot of culture and world building that goes into that, and I think that I maybe wasn't expecting as much of that
Mhm.
as was there, which probably to some degree at least fed into my enjoyment of it, because I read it knowing I'd enjoy it, knowing that
Right.
I've liked everything I've read by you, and trusting you as an author, but then not realizing that you were going to dig that deep into a culture. Quite honestly, I think you could probably say I didn't realize that you had developed the culture that much.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just really, that's one of those ones that I think is a little bit slept on. People need to go read it because it's fantastic. So,
It is a nerdy book, so like
yeah,
you got to be ready for there's no humans. Well, there's a human that shows up in like
right.
one sentence, but the whole point is that it is a culture study. Is that it's a culture study of how do you deal with a completely inhuman inhuman city. So yeah.
Tori's got all the. I don't know where she's at actually. I haven't checked in with her on Collation Saga recently, but
I won't out her. She can answer in the comments.
Imbrus is a cool character.
Yes.
And then that's a good question. Jenid is one of my favorite characters that so I don't know why I randomly started doing this, but a couple weeks, maybe 2 weeks ago, I started thinking there's a lot of characters that I've read since I started BookTube that are some of my favorite characters ever. I should make a list of these, and Jenid's on that list.
Well, that's great. Yeah. It's funny, before we get to her question, is because he used to be almost basically Dane. Like in the 2010 version, not Rawlia, was the main character, and his two sidekicks were Jinid and Soraya. And Jinid and Soraya are like constantly arguing because Jinid is borderline chauvinist, and Soraya is like, I'm standing right here. And there was a character who then shows up. I don't think his name was Dane. I forget it doesn't matter what his name was, but there was a Dane-like character who then contextualized Jinid, who basically puts him in his place, having just kind of come to terms with Soraya as his companion. And so when I rewrote the story, the number one, in my opinion, the fix to the whole plot was removing Jinid from Rawlia's story and giving them their own plots that were in many ways unrelated and parallel to each other in how they're moving. By removing Jinid, giving him his own story, it then populated everything very, very fast. So that Jinid could actually do his own thing, and he didn't need to be a chauvinist at that point. Then he got his background story of how he became a paladin. So that wasn't there originally. Maybe it was, but he didn't have an excuse to be the chauvinist character that he was, and I needed him to do that so that I could then. I accidentally tripped and fell and made Dane, and so to have a wonderfully hated character, so you have a shadow character to Jinid. A very big time shadow, but so that's kind of how Jinid developed. Is because he has Dane to blame for who he is, because I was able to split his personality into the two characters of the older version of myself who wants to put somebody in their place but maybe doesn't always speak up, and then the person he wants to put in his place.
So is there a character that could best Jinid in single combat? And I mean, I know there's a whole lot of magical stuff going on with this.
Right. Even outside of magic. I mean, Jinid's not the best fighter. Rawlia is. Rawlia would kick his butt. It would be Rawlia. Smaller, faster, very capable, uses a staff or spear, and staves will almost always beat staves. They're underrated. If you watch anybody who does fighting stuff online, and it's like a staff is the best weapon. Staff/spear, a good strong spear, not like a Yari that's weak. Yaris are great. Yaris are fantastic because they're flexible. However, a good like Naginata, a barely trained peasant can beat a samurai with if they're carrying a Naginata, just because it's just. As long as you have the bravery to stand up against someone screaming at you and coming at you with a sword, a Naginata is just, in my opinion, superior. As much as I love hammers, But Ralia would have no problem kicking Jinid's butt. Hannon would have his own butt handed to him very fast. He is not a good fighter. He's okay. He's serviceable, but he's the planner. So
right.
Yeah. Astrid might be able to, maybe. And I would say even probably later Astrid, because she doesn't care as much anymore. Like she's not we haven't met Astrid before Deathless Beast. We know that she was more cheerful then, but I would bet that she just kind of has a much more of a who cares attitude when she fights. And so Astrid might be able to pull it on Jinid. And the twins together would outclass Jinid any day. If only out of faith, right? Because like is it in, I think it's in Dread Knight. Brother Hammer says that that Loic and Kavian together have the most faith in the whole world.
Yeah.
So because the two of them are inseparably interlinked with their faith,
which scares me.
Yeah. They're gonna get a point of view. I'm promising you a point of view.
Okay. All right. That'll be fun.
Book 5 is going to be my lead in towards them getting a point of view. I've already kind of hinted. I think I've dropped one like interlude with them as a point of view. You'll start seeing it in book 5, and then books 6 and 7, they will 100% be a full POV character. Whether it's Loic Kavian, I'm not going to say anything. You'll just have to see. But it will be the twins will have a point of view. So that way I'm able to say even now that if you've read book 1, you have met every point of view for the first 10 books.
Okay. Yeah. So let's go through the comments real quick, because Tori keeps sending them, which is good. I like that. Ralia, I do. There's not a, with the exception of Dane, there's not a character I don't like.
Right.
And I do like Dane because I like to dislike him. He's a great character. He's a great foil for Jinid, especially in Jinid's story. So he's well worth the inclusion.
And I will say about Ralia too, she's a very good fighter. The reason she has not had a point of view really yet, and she will starting in 5, is because she was originally Rawl, who was a Gary Stew of myself. It was really bad. So complete Gary Stew. And so the reason I switched it up and at first added her brother, Hannon, and then made Hannon the main character was because I was trying to separate myself from Ralia's psyche and let Ralia grow as a character outside of myself, so that when I do introduce her as a main character in book 5, she has now outgrown me. She's still a very good fighter. And she can still get vested. I mean, she gets vested in the first scene by a Vul. So she's not perfect. But I needed to separate myself from her. And my wife was asking me the other day, like, you don't even view her as Rawl anymore, do you? I was like, no. And it was a huge worry when I first switched her to Ralia. It's going to take me forever to get through this. And I don't even think of her as Rawl anymore. It's just Ralia. And that's I'm very happy that happened, because that took a little time.
That's good. And Hannon's story has been very interesting, and especially in mostly 3 and 4. It leads from, how do I word this? From where Bone Shroud left off and left that story. And he's had a very interesting story, and I've enjoyed seeing his development for sure.
I would say both Hannon and Aaron Mateau are the two characters who have had the most change in my plans for them. Aaron did it because he earned himself a role. He was just going to be a bit part in book 1, show up again as just a cameo in book 2, and that was going to be it. But he kept showing up to work. So it's like, you know what? I'm going to give you a promotion, sir. And so he gets a whole promotion out of book 3 and on. So that's how Aaron developed. Whereas Hannon, Alatha was the big surprise for him, as I had wanted to kind of introduce her, and then she just basically flipped the table and changed the plot for Hannon. So the plans that I still have for him are still confused by Alatha. So she has now changed everything in the plot, because she demands attention, and she deserves it. So Hannon's story has changed specifically because of Alatha.
stepping away from Collation Saga,
Yep.
not in the sense of like I don't want to talk about it or don't want you to refer to it as we're continuing the questions here, but where did my question go? I got to find it now. So there's this thing that I've noticed about you specifically. You happen to somehow write the books that are going to be in the next genre that's going to be popular.
Mm.
How do you predict the genres? and how has that worked out for you? Or is it just that you're writing what you want?
You mean like the fact that we're leaving Grimdark and heading into Noble Dark and so on?
Right, as well as the whole cozy fantasy, and
right.
you picked up on that and everything too.
Cozy was by design, and I can cover that. The fact that I prefer Noble Dark over Grimdark is because I prefer Noble Dark over Grimdark. I just don't care for Grimdark enough to like, and I'm sure we could do a whole psychoanalysis of why I don't. But like, you know, I read Grimdark, like Warhammer 40,000 in college, and it's just not my thing. And so I wrote something that I wanted to read. So a lot of it is like personal subversion. Like the fact that I introduced paladins is because I didn't like how paladins were written, and so I said I'm going to do better. And so by design, the fact that paladins are focal and they're not grimdark, they are noble dark, right? So they are noble dark, and now I've since reanalyzed myself and realized it's noble dark because that's what Tolkien was. Tolkien was noble dark. And I can die on the hill that he's not noble bright. He's noble dark because of the fact that Moria is dark, and the darkness is set to win, and in fact does win. Yeah, it is only because of the eucatastrophe that good overcomes. And the more videos you watch on like Theoden as the voice of Gen Z, because he is somebody who was a puppet, who is then has to choose. First, wrongly, probably to go to Helm's Deep, and then to go to Minas Tirith, knowing he will die, was a noble decision. And so, the idea of choosing to stand in the face of darkness, even though you know you will lose, is it's as freaking hopeful as you can get. Yeah. So, without being saccharine, right? So I would say that a lot of that's just happy accident. Yeah, Cozy was not an accident. I saw it come out. It came out actually before COVID. It came out in 2019. So he accidentally wrote something people needed. Yeah. And COVID hit, and it became and I'm referring to Legends and Lattes. Right. Cozy has always been around. You can argue Discworld is cozy very easily, quite easily. And so almost all subgenres are always in existence. Yeah. It's just a matter of whether they're popular, right? So Legends of Lattes came out. I read it probably mid 2020, and I was like, "This is fun." And I have my qualms with it that I think could have been marketed differently. And I thought I could write this, and I was in the middle of writing everything else, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to just write a ripoff of Legends and Lattes. As I watched other cozies just start showing up. So I knew I could see the writing on the wall that cozy was going to go big. And I think a lot of that is because first COVID created actually a dip down into massive grimdark out of a knee-jerk reaction to COVID. And then the introverts said, but I kind of like staying home. What if we wrote about cozy? And so you get this actually upswing, but it took an extra year past that for the cozy writers' books to hit the market, whether indie or not. And I kept sitting on it. And then so let's see. So 2020, I wrote Quaint Creatures in when did it come out? 2024. So it came out 2024. I wrote it in January of 2024. I was watching All Creatures Great and Small. Yep. The new one. And I grew up watching the original one, and I read some excerpts from the book. I've since read the books. And was watching All Creatures Great and Small. And I turned to my wife on January 20th of 2024 and said, that's what I'm writing.
Yeah.
I want to write that, but cozy in a fantasy setting. I'm writing All Creatures Great. That's literally what I'm going to write. And that was Saturday. On Sunday, maybe that's Friday, because then I basically spent all that weekend and wrote like 20,000 words, and then stopped for a weekend to do world building and prep work to kind of get an idea of the world and setting, and then finished it by February 21st. So I wrote it in 1 month, and then published it by May. So I do not suggest people write the book that fast and publish it that fast, but it just so happened that I got the book done. I was very happy with what it was. I got readers on it very quickly, and I was able to paint a cover for it, and I got it published in May. So very, 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 very fast. And and that's the story of Quaint Creature. So it was very much a discovery written, but all I needed it to be was to feel like a season of All Creatures, where you have moments where it's the whole plot is literally solving a breach cow, right. And so it kind of wrote itself, and I still have, and I even the new one, A Baker's Dungeon, I started that one in June of that year, and it's only finally coming out in October of 2026. So that one took a long time, but I wrote half of it right away, and then sat on it and have written another one since then. So, you never know. And almost every cozy I write, I go through like an identity crisis and struggle of, why am I doing this? This is not working for me. And then I go back and read it. I'm like, no, this is exactly what it's supposed to be. And so it is so different from everything else that I write, even if there's undertones all through my writing that are similar. It's so different that I struggle every time I write a cozy, because I feel like I'm failing myself, even though when I go back and read it, I was like, nope, this is what it's supposed to be. So, but it's kind of fun because like you look at any writer, look at any director and their body of work, and it's never one note. I think that publishing, traditional publishing, is the only one that begs authors to stay in their lanes, and that's the only medium that does that, which needs to change. So
yeah. There's lots about traditional publishing that needs to change. But. All right, another question here: how has your faith influenced how and what you write?
It significantly affects it. The broad brushstroke is that it affects everybody, including those that say it doesn't, and generally those that say they don't are fighting against their own internal struggle enough that it comes through. So I can usually tell when an author is my faith or my perceived and stated lack thereof does not affect my writing, and then I can look at their characters and say, but your characters are saying the same things you are, so yes, it does, because your belief system will inform how you write things. That does not mean it dictates everything. That does not mean that it does not mean that because you are a good law-abiding citizen that you can't write a story told from a villain's point of view. I believe that you can, because that's just a matter of getting into different parts of how you break things down in your psyche. But your faith does affect how you write. And I think if you come to those terms, you will have a better time harnessing that or avoiding it in a good way. Someone who is a Christian can still write a Brooklyn Nine-Nine episode that has nothing to do with the church. Because it doesn't have to be. It's not that, well, because you have a faith that your story has to be about faith. That is not true either. For me, it affects how I write. It affects how I write because I come from a very odd family of from a traditionally conservative Christian family that loves sci-fi and fantasy and always has, in churches that would usually frown upon that, which makes us kind of an odd birds. But because of that, I think it helps me stay outside of things and view everything of those who I both agree with and disagree with better than most can. Because I expect when I walk up to somebody and say, oh, well, I'm a fantasy author, someone from at a potluck to go, oh, fantasy, I don't read that. And you have to get over that. It's just you just have to get over it. It's an advantage to having a wife who writes mystery, because if I say, "Well, do you read mystery?" They're like, "Oh, I love murder and mayhem. That's great." You're like, "Okay, good for you. Buy her books. It all comes to the same bank account." But what I mean by that, my mom and I will call ourselves like border walkers. As a border walker, we can walk along the borders of multiple groups, and our Venn diagram is a razor that we enjoy walking on. I enjoy walking. I enjoy hanging out with people from theater who I don't agree with on many things, and can have a massive blowout argument about Hamlet, and it's going to be a fantastic night. And so, but because of that, it does affect my writing, because then I can write from people's point of views who I don't agree with, but can understand why they got to that point, and then not straw man, which is always my aim, is to make sure that characters are never straw man and never giving a straw man argument. And that's like, I agonize over making sure that any character, whether they are good or villain or non, that their belief system to them is true. And I want to respect that, because then I do get people who will like certain characters who I didn't expect people to like. And you know, I probably should have kept like a tally of like favorite characters, just so I can keep an idea. But you know, you'll get somebody who'll come along and they'll be like, "Oh man, my favorite character is you know, actually, you know, Tori's saying, you know, don't knock Hannon. He's actually, if I was to, Jynid would win in the Collation Saga of favorite characters. And Hannon, I get people who like Hannon love Hannon, and others, he's okay, I guess. And then there's Katiam, who every once in a while you get somebody who just adores her, and it's like, because they feel seen. It's like, that's my success, is when I can have somebody feel seen through a character that that feels like an outsider like themselves. So
So this is kind of maybe a little bit off topic from the conversation about you as an author, but what are your perspectives, I guess, if you want to get into this, you don't have to, on the Christian fiction, whether that be books or the Christian film industry, and where do you see us needing to improve? And there's
a lot of places we can improve. That's for sure.
Right.
But we are in a very interesting time. It is very easy to say The Chosen is not an outlier, but a banner carrier for the future. Not that there aren't other Christian media that have been made that are good, but The Chosen went so far above and beyond in every single, in a Lord of the Rings level way. Like, you can watch all the behind the scenes of Lord of the Rings and what it did and still affects today. I'll die on that hill that it's the greatest trilogy ever made. And now we're in the middle of an argument whether Dune's going to be the greatest trilogy ever made. And it's like, is it a beautiful piece of art? 100%. Is it the sci-fi version of Lord of the Rings? I will fight that fight and say, yes, it is. Is it supplanting Lord of the Rings? No, it is not. Right. But back to the subject, is that The Chosen has lifted what can be done and kind of thumbed its nose at everybody respectfully. But it's thumbed its nose at the whole industry by saying, you understand you can make good media. And it preaches. That's the funny thing, is like, there can be a whole fight on whether should your Christian fiction preach. I'm not saying in the pulpit, but should it be preaching to somebody who's reading? I would actually argue no, and I can circle back to that. But The Chosen, while both preaching, also never info dumps, right? He does a really good job of never info dumping anything, but also taking the time to do the world building that needs to be done. So it's changed everything. Now, because of that, we've had some bad side effects of then some other ones that are trying to be The Chosen and are just falling on their face. That's going to happen. Just like there are cozy fantasies that are not good. And there are others that are taking what Travis Baldree has kind of introduced as a norm and taking it to another level, or continued to carry the banner farther. That's going to happen no matter any kind of media. Same will be true of superhero movies and subversive superhero movies that came out in the last 20 years as well. That and other ones that are just awful. So it's going to happen. I think you said how can Christian fiction fix itself is a 200-year-old problem, in the same that traditional publishing has things to learn that needs to kind of pull its head out of the sand and actually fix. That that people have been saying fix these problems for so long that they're like, well, we haven't yet, so why bother? And it's like, because we're kind of done. And the same is true in Christian fiction, that if you are the traditional Christian publishing machine is the same as the traditional publishing machine. Its job is to print money.
Right.
And that usually always means there's going to be a writing and publishing to the lowest common denominator. Who is consuming the books? That's who they're writing to. And if the only people who are consuming books just want more Amish romance, it's just money that's being printed. And so why would you do anything else if it works? Right. I think we need to fix it by borrowing from other media. Like I talk about episodic with like Thrice, which is based on specifically Usagi Yojimbo's style of storytelling, which is a comic book style of storytelling where every single issue is a new chapter, or every 2 issues is a whole story, so that you're coming back month to month and telling episodic in nature. Netflix renovated how storytelling can be done in episodic nature by not feeling that you do need to watch the whole series. You need to have binged all of Daredevil to understand what's happening. It's not the storytelling of the 80s and 90s where every week we have a new Star Trek episode and we better reintroduce the characters. It's like, no, that we no longer have to do that at all. It doesn't have to be done. So I think if you're a Christian author out there and you're saying, I want to write specifically in Christian fiction, but I want to fix it, I'm not sure how, just start adopting tools in your toolbox from other media, from movies, and saying, well, I'm a huge Christopher Nolan fan. I want to write a science fiction. Okay, what can you analyze from Christopher Nolan? And then watching interviews with him and how he writes, how can you analyze his favorite storytellers, so that you're borrowing from all these different things to create you as a writer. And we can always absorb. It's the same reason where you can be a writer and go off to Venice and look at art. You're looking at art and you're going to come back with ideas, maybe because of the art you looked at, maybe because of people that you saw. I can take a journal on a hike and expect I'm going to write something down. I never am. I'm just going to walk.
Right.
But come back ready to write because I'm refreshed from just being in nature and absorbing something. So I think we need to absorb and realize when we're writing fanfic. And if you're but I love Amish romance. I want to write my own Amish romance, but subvert things. Okay, what are you subverting? And specifically make yourself a list and write down the things you want to change. Yeah. And you may through that come back and say, actually 3 of those are actually good. We're going to leave those in. That's okay too. It's okay during subversion to say you're not going to subvert, but sometimes choosing to analyze things you want to tear out will actually make you realize, no, that carburetor is there in the car for a reason. I probably shouldn't pull that thing out. I don't know what a carburetor does, but that's the first word that came to my head. So
that's good. Yeah, because I mean, so often what I see with Christian media of whatever form is that it's more focused on preaching at you than it is telling a story. And I think The Chosen has done an excellent job. I haven't watched all of it. I only watched 3 seasons, maybe 4 seasons. I don't remember. But what it does is it tells a story. It just happens that story is also preaching at the same time because it's literally about Jesus and his disciples. So it's a kind of a unique position, but it brought in such a high quality of production without sacrificing morals and while still allowing itself to tell a good story. And I think that's what's made it so successful and kind of, as you said, proved to the world that it doesn't have to be the same thing every single time. It doesn't have to be the low quality, tacky, corny type that we generally get.
I wonder if a lot of Chosen exists because we have like the MCU as well, right? What I mean by that is that like, okay, The Chosen is telling the story of the apostles. It's telling the story of the Gospels, of which Jesus is hand holding, but also never he never. There is no gospel preached to them because the gospel hasn't finished happening yet. They're living it, right? So, but so he understands who's watching it, and that's the error with having Christian fiction where there's always a coming to Jesus moment. Because who's reading it? People who have already come to Jesus. It's not saving people. That's not who it's aimed at. Whereas The Chosen is saying, okay, we're going to tell this story of the Gospels. We know you've read it too. As the viewer, if you're from the church. If you're not from the church, we're not going to insult you. And so we can make drops and hints to those people who know the Bible and go, oh, wait, is that's Simon of Cyrene? Oh, I know who that is now. And look, well, but he's not going to tell you for 2 more seasons that it really is he? So the reason I mentioned MCU is that a good director in a superhero franchise drops hints to the fans without ever insulting those who aren't the fans. So that when and that's just a good story writing that you can use, like Steve Rogers as the idiot. He's the story's idiot for the world. He doesn't know what's going on. He's from 1940s, and so you can explain dumb things to him, but also he's really smart. And so Steve Rogers is a perfect choice for that character trope because he's not an idiot. He understands, and he also picks things up very quickly. And so you can dump things really fast on him. And if Steve can follow, then the viewers can trust that the story is going in the correct direction, and you can just trust. And we have, and that's, I love doing that is, I wish there was 2 different ways to say it, but there are people who will say, well, this author never handholds. But when they say that, they mean, but he fire hoses you and never handle. He just fire hoses you. It's great. And I was like, is it though? And then there's people who don't handhold because they trust the audience. And that's why I wish there was 2 different terms for that. But the second is better in my opinion. If you can handhold without fire hosing somebody, and trust the audience while also making sure you pay it out. So you have to. Your audience should always be trusting you enough, often to the next page. The number of times I'm reading my books out loud to my wife, and she's like, wait, stop. What about this? And I'm like, just wait a minute. And then the very next page, it solves the problem. Because that's what we want to do. We always want to be one step ahead, but also not dragging people by their noses. And MCU is a great example of that in the well-written ones. So
so kind of just hard turn changing gears here. What is I'll just read how I have it written. What is a piece of your past that has greatly influenced your storytelling that most people don't know? So what's an inspiration that maybe you haven't talked about quite as much?
Yes. My Tourette syndrome is a huge contributor to my creativity. So let me look this up because this is going to come back. So I have Tourette syndrome. I was diagnosed when I was in third grade. And so I took, early on I had like pills I had to take in order to focus me. So it's like I don't even remember what it was. I think it's 2 different ones I tried. It was ADHD or ADHD type focus, right, to get you to focus. And nobody really knows I have it for the fact that it does diminish with age. That's just the nature of Tourette's. And those pills that I took killed my creativity. So I was already creative and I felt dead when I took them. And so I stopped taking them. So I say that it contributes to me because I felt what it was like to lose it. And so so I think by getting off of those pills, it brought creativity back to me in such a flood that it was like, this is who I am. So that's been a huge contributor to me, and contributed in my youth to somebody who was an outsider, who was ostracized as someone who was a weirdo. That's why I'll say, it's why I I know he's not here right now, but I have Gonzo, the Muppet,
Mm-hmm.
because he's always been my hero. I like being the weirdo.
Mm-hmm.
And I've leveled out more as an adult, or have I? But being a weirdo, or being an outsider, gives me a fresh perspective of
Mm-hmm.
people, and then I can write about them. So
Yeah.
the reason I was looking up is there's a music video that just came out from Paris Paloma. She's a British singer, and the song's called Miyazaki, and it's a fantastic song. I just popped it up in because it was like, oh, this looks interesting. It's a girl in armor singing a song, and then it hit me like in the gut, because it's about people are analyzing whether it's about AI coming and taking information from people, but it's about her creativity, and how even back when I used to do it for free, I would still do it for free because it's who I am. And so that's why it spoke to me. And so I do urge anybody to go check out the music video. It's very good. And that's Paris Paloma's Miyazaki. It just dropped like 3 days ago. And never heard of her before. And the song spoke to me because it was like, I felt seen as a kid with Tourette's who had his creativity literally killed. And I, didn't tell my mom I'd stopped taking the pills. And then finally she's like, well, why are there still pills in here? And I was like, I stopped taking them because I couldn't, my creativity was killed. She's like, great, you're not taking them anymore. That's fine. We'll figure out how to deal with it without it. And so I never went back. But yeah, so there's the lore. Is Andrew has had Tourette's since before it was cool. So back in the mid 90s when I was diagnosed. And it's been a huge contributor as a constant companion for me since then. So, yeah,
it's interesting. It's one of those things. I've heard you mention it before. I don't know where, but I've heard you mention it before, and it was one of those things that's always in the back of my head. Is how does this influence him? But it wasn't. Yeah. I wasn't specifically thinking about that with the question. But at the same time, I'm glad that was the answer that you came up with, because I like hearing about that. And it's one of those things where, so my brother's half deaf. He was born without the use of, or without hearing in his right ear. And so it's one of those things where it's kind of been a part of my life, all my life. And so I hear it, I hear those types of things, and I'm curious about people's experiences with them and how it influences things. So yeah, I'm glad that you were willing to share that. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, then I'll say I'm going to have you read the novella I'm writing right now, because one of the characters is all deaf in one ear and mostly deaf in the other. So
interesting.
I need your input. So
and
your brother's if he's willing to read it. So
I bet you I could get into. I bet you I could. The other one that I actually just finished is Aurelia by Stephen R. Lawhead, which is the prequel to the Pendragon Cycle, and she's half deaf. And so I started reading that. I was like, "Oh, I recognize this. I understand."
And that's kind of Aurelia cool. Is she the mother of Karis?
Mother of Uther and Aurelia. Aurelia is the mother of Uther and Aurelius. I can't talk. So
this takes place in Britain. It's not in Atlantis.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So it was just seeing how she functions with it, seeing how she was able to, it's something that she deals with, but it's not something that she allows her to stop her from doing the things that she needs to do. Right. And so it's really cool to the way that he wove it in there. And I mean, there was a little bit handholdy to some degree with it, because you have to constantly be reminding the characters in the world about it. And so there's a little bit of that, but also it was never overbearing in his portrayal of like, she's half deaf, not every single time saying it. Yeah. And it just, when it came up, it was necessary for the character to bring it up type thing. And so I appreciated the way that Law had portrayed that as well. Yeah,
well, that feeds back into deeper lore of mine, is that my grandfather had polio. Okay. So he got polio at age 12. And was left for dead in the hospital for a year basically, and came out fine, except for the fact that his legs were nothing but bones his whole life, and huge beefy man, and went on to apprentice at and then create like prosthetics and braces for other people who have handicaps. That was his career, and he was a kind, loud, boisterous man who led from a chair, basically. So he was kind of like Captain Picard, and his example to our family of not overcoming a handicap, but existing in a way that nobody ever realized he had it. Like nobody who knew him thought, oh, we'll better help him with the door. And like, psh, no, here comes Jack. And so it was a huge inspiration for us, huge inspiration for Dorian, and just somebody who is not defined by their handicap, yet is 100% defined by it, because those trials still forge you into who you are.
Right.
But those trials, they don't define you in the sense. They only define you as much as you allow them to.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Where's another question here? Okay. What's something from, and if you want to go each of the books, or if you want to go each of the series, take it however you want to. What is one thing from, and the way that I have it worded is from each of your books, that has pushed you and taught you, and that you will take with you into every other book you write? And it can be book or series, or however you want to interpret that, however you want to answer that.
Huh.
Or if you don't want to answer it, we can go find a different one.
Boy.
And I guess this is kind of spurred on by the conversations that I know you've had with Tori about learning from each book and doing something, challenging yourself with each book.
Oh, that's the easier question. Is I do like to challenge myself. When I start a new book, story, or series, I will often make a little list of things I want to intentionally like give myself hurdles to overcome. Anything from, in this story, I want to have an actual romance in the story. To Thrice is a literal laundry list of challenges for myself when I read it. So I said it had to be short, had to be very short. Like it was aggressively short. Like I was in the middle of pitching Collation, and every agent is like, well, I want something needs to be less than 100,000 words, maybe 90,000 words. And I'm, looking up definitions of novels, and it's like, well, a novel is 40,000 words plus, and an epic start. Like, you know what? I'm gonna write a 70,000 word book. It's gonna be short. They can't say it's too long. And so I wrote a really short book. And I wanted to, so it's a laundry list of challenges. So I do like to set myself challenges. What do I learn from those? I learn more that we're not nearly as limiting to ourselves as we think we are. I learn probably more from the characters when I start to realize I've literally written myself in again. So like Jinnit is a great example of myself. Is the first example of myself, in that he's the righteous indignation of Andrew. Versus Joven is the father who's so fed up with people being stupid around him, which Jinnit does too. So, and they both start with J. Who knew? So there's so much of that.
I should start calling you Jandrew then.
That's fine. You can do that. Yeah, with an apostrophe, please.
Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew. Whereas Rick, he's myself, I guess. But I have learned things from them. Like Rick's a great example of a lesson I've learned for myself, in that I too take too much on far too often, and he deals with that halfway through, and having to ask his friends to help him deal with his issues. And that is a lesson I'm still learning, and I have not finished learning. Whereas I don't know. I don't know that me writing arguments into a story, I don't know, has helped me become a better arguer, because I'm still not a very good live arguer. You put me in a debate, I will lose. I just can't. But you give me a chance to write something down, and I'll probably scathe my opponent, because I'll have time, right? But I have learned how better to formulate arguments. So like in the case of Jinnit, right? Jinnit does a lot of time actually getting a chance. I can formulate what I need him to say, versus Joven is a action based character. He doesn't argue a lot. He just does it. He just fixes the problem as soon as it comes up. I don't know. Sometimes I learn via solving problems the way they shouldn't be. So like, should things be solved as fast as Joven solves them? No, but now I have to write myself out of this. And so it's a good thing. And it also stays in character, and maybe causes some more plot problems. So I don't know. I think you are going to learn more importantly, keep writing. If you like,
Mhm.
well, if you write the same book 12 times, Rothfuss, you're not going to learn for your character. And in my opinion, that's why number 2 suffers so much, because he didn't take the time to learn from the first one, because he hadn't written 10 other books. If he had written 12 books instead of the same book 12 times,
Mhm.
he'd have more books out. Yes,
Yeah.
the first book he wrote wouldn't be as good, but the same is true of Sanderson. Elantris is not his best written book. It is a favorite of people, but in plot wise, there are some gaping flaws that he has since fixed as a writer in himself, and that's a good thing. And developed other problems too as a writer, because we do that
Mhm.
too. You know, we always aggravate our sins and our problems
Yeah.
more so the older we get. So
Interesting. Yeah.
but you won't learn until you write.
Right. That's the hard part for me.
That is the hard part.
Let's see. Wow, I have the way that I do my list of questions to ask authors is I just have them all in a note on my phone, and then I just copy and paste from the previous
Right.
author interviews, and so there's repeats of questions or just slight rewordings, and I'm like, okay, I need to comb through them, because in a lot of them also there are things that come up in the conversation already, and so we touch on them, and so I can just kind of move.
Which is why I don't plot my conversations,
right?
Because then I'll get to page 500 and realize I already did this conversation. Yeah.
Wow, I've done pretty good, gotten through the majority of them. There's just a handful left. Sure, actually, that's not a horrible question, because it's always good for the author to indicate where they like them. What genres or subgenres or age ranges or whatever do you place your stories in your series?
Yes. So I like to say, I write to all ages, in the same way that the books in the 90s, there was no YA, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was books and they were on the shelf, and your parents read a book and said, your turn, you can read this now. That was the way it was. It's how I like to do things, because I'm writing for myself.
Mm-hmm.
However, each of my books, I like to say, does read down to a particular age. So in the case of like Quaint Creatures, my 10-year-old and 12-year-old have read and loved it. So is it a YA? You could argue that it's a YA. It will read YA. It will read to kids, and without like totally PG, like not even PG-13. It's PG.
Yeah.
Thrice reads down to 12-ish, so it could also read YA, because it is about a father and a little boy, but it's more about the father. There are a few more mature themes, so it puts it in a low-level PG-13 setting. And then I say that collation reads down to 14, because I wouldn't give it to someone younger than a 14-year-old, only because it's more philosophical and might bore a kid. Yeah. But a well-read 13-year-old who's read all of Sanderson, get on that. I got you. It will read to some, and I use also a lesson learned from the game world, board game world. When you look at the side of a board game and it says ages 12 and up, what it means is if this is the first board game a 12-year-old has ever played, it's appropriate for them. However, if the kid has been raised in a board gaming family and they're 9, they can play this game.
Right. Yeah.
So I look at that way. I wouldn't pin it in this sense. So in the sense that, and also it's also, I like being able to see the whites of somebody's eyes if they're asking. So if I'm in a convention and a father and son walk up, and I can read into them and think, what kind of life are they coming from? Is this like a fundamentalist type person and their kid? Okay, let's go with Quaint Creatures if they've played D&D. But if they don't like D&D, they should not be reading. If they have an aversion to D&D, maybe this is not the book for you.
Yeah.
So
there's, I don't know if you've seen it or heard about it much, but there's a conversation going around, especially within the Christian fantasy writers community, of basically putting ratings on books like we do with movies or video games or something like that. What are your thoughts on that, or do you have thoughts on that?
And
it's kind of weird.
It is. I wouldn't mind it. However, how do you define it? Like
Yeah.
do you roll forward? Like PG-13 is a great example. I like to use the term PG-13 because when I was growing up in the 90s, late 90s specifically, PG-13 meant a very specific thing. It is not the same PG-13 as the 80s, where they could get where they could put nudity into it and it would still be PG-13. Wait a minute, what? Well, then the censors came in, they kind of went heavy-handed, but then you get to the late 90s and you get like The Mummy is PG-13. Matrix is rated R.
Yeah.
Now at year 2026, the Matrix is probably PG-13.
Yeah,
comparatively. So it is a broad term, and that's where I would fight against it. In that I would want it to be generally broad. However, I do want bracket. I would love to see better bracketing. I would love to see YA known to be actually aimed at 12 to 16-year-olds and not things that are not appropriate for 35-year-olds.
Right.
Which is also part of the current conversation. Yeah. So should we put them on the actual books? Maybe we should actually just stick to what the genres say they are in the first place, and we wouldn't have that problem. I know there's a whole discussion online of whether you should call something spicy or clean or whatever. And so again, it's I like to refer to it all as a bunch of Venn diagrams, right? Everything's a Venn diagram of if I say, and it's the same when you're making comps. If I say Needle and Leaf is like Thrice and Mandalorian, it's not Thrice and Mandalorian, or it's not The Witcher and Mandalorian. The Witcher is very rated R. Mandalorian is not, but they both have the same essence. And so if you like those ideas, you will like Thrice in between that. Same way that I can say, well, it's clean fiction. What do you mean clean? Is there violence? Well, yeah, some bodies at the floor, but it's not clean yet, is it? It's like, okay, fine. It's PG-13. What do you mean? Do you like The Mummy? I hate The Mummy. It's so gross. Okay, fine. What other PG-13 movie do you like? And they'll bring up something else that doesn't have undead in it. Okay, that's PG-13. So there's so much Venn diagramming you can do. Most you can do is set up a giant Venn diagram and hope you're catching people, because that's what all books are. Is you're never actually saying this book is literally All Creatures Great and Small with Magic, because it doesn't take place in New York.
Right.
It takes place in a D&D city. Oh, I don't like D&D. Okay, great. Now I know that. What's another book I can suggest to you? So that's just book selling, and it's learning to interact with human beings.
Right.
Which we all have to do every day that we wake up. We have to relearn how to interact with human beings.
Yeah. And I know for me, and I would assume I'm not the only one like this, that it's hard to rate because violence doesn't bother me. Violence in stories and books, gore in books, because I'm not seeing it on the screen. I'm not seeing it right in front of me. I'm sure if you got gratuitous with it, you could take it too far and I would stop enjoying it or stop being able to read it. But those aren't the things that bother me. What bothers me are adult content. So primarily sex and language. And I don't want those in my stories. And so I would like to, if there were some form of rating system for books in that sense, I would like to be able to distinguish, I don't know, maybe have like different dots. You fill in the dots for how many of this, how strong it is on this part of the scale or something like that. I don't know, but something like that would be more beneficial.
Who's making the ratings? So like the part of that same discussion is trigger warnings, right? Should you have trigger warnings for books? And I don't think so, but yes, I do. If there's literally going to be this one problem, yes, it might keep me from reading the whole book. However, if I know there's going to be this situation coming up somewhere in the book, I'm now looking for it. I'm looking. It's like introducing to like our kids, showing them new movies and say, just so you know. So my daughter, when she was younger, had a huge problem with anybody who had crone face. So like the witch in Snow White. So Yoda initially was a huge problem for her because it was crone face. And so we kind of warn her, okay, there's one scene we're going to skip through because there's crone face. Well, then she would worry the whole movie to that point. Ooh, is it coming? Is it coming? Don't worry about it. We're just letting you know there's going to be a skip point because we're telling our son we're going to be skipping the scene. Deal with it.
Yeah.
So if you have a trigger warning, it can, yes, it can be there to help those who really do need to skip that. Okay, that's fine. But it also can cause you to then be looking for it.
Yeah.
And then it ends up half the time being disappointing because the person who decided it was a trigger, it's only triggering to 1% of the people. Others who are like, really? That it was a dismemberment. You said there was dismemberment in this, and one guy got his finger cut off. Who cares?
Right.
Whereas one person hates the fact that a finger got cut off, right?
Yeah.
And I would say even like how far are you in Rockio?
I just finished Empire Silence.
First one
today.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, cool. His series, I'm rating number 7 right now, but his series is such an example of everything I don't like done right. So you can have and an example of that would be like, let's just take vulgarity as an example. You can have F bombs dropped in it, and it never bothers me.
I said the exact same thing to Liam the other day. I was like, it doesn't bother me the way he uses it because it's not
gratuitous.
It's respectful. It's not gratuitous in any way.
It's appropriate.
Yeah. And it never once bothered me.
Right. And the same number 2, there will be scenes where you're like, boy, this is making me uncomfortable. And it's like, yeah, that's the point. And then when it goes past it and you're like, actually, that worked. Okay. Yep. That was a perfect example of some awful things that happen. And I can, so there are always exceptions, right? To every one of them. So it's like, okay, well, we're going to go into this. And then you watch an 80s movie and you're like, oh my gosh, Back to the Future is so full of this. And we forgot because we're adults now. So we're showing this, watching it with the kids and we're like, oh man, they never stopped swearing that whole movie. And my kids are young. What am I going to do? It's like, well, that was the 80s. So that's kind of how you write it off. And it's like, And so circumstantial, and every person is different. And so that's why ratings might not work. In the same, when's the last time you saw a G-rated movie?
Probably a Disney film. Probably a Disney animated movie, but
and it's like, but also then you watch some of those, you're like, why isn't this one? What even is the difference between PG and G anymore? It's not. And so it's like, okay, and so it's like whatever you establish is going to shift. People will be mad that it automatically shifts within a year of its being established. So I don't know. I don't know what the actual answer is, but
that's kind of what I've thought too. Is there's ways that it could be helpful, but at the same time, it's going to be so hard to define. But I'm also not partaking in the conversations because I have nothing to add. Quite honestly, the nuance that I have to add, everybody else has already added it. So
and it could be that what we do is we don't put them on the outside of the books. One, because I don't want publishing putting stickers on the front of my books. So, but we could put them on the inside, right inside, copyright page, and then here's where you're going to find trigger warnings. However, how are you going to mention your trigger warnings without saying things that don't need to be printed in the first place? I don't need to be opening a book and immediately saying, oh, by the way, this one is rated PG. No, is rated NC-17 for necro or something. And they're like, oh my gosh. Okay, I'm not going to read this. Whereas I think somebody had a trigger warning for cannibalism and it was because there were zombies. And it was like, maybe not. You don't need to do that. If you say zombies, we know they're going to eat people.
So definitely, I think it's a conversation worth having, but I don't know the answer to it, and I don't know that there will be a satisfactory answer to it.
Not without.
Anyways, that was
releasing.
That was a random aside that popped into my mind as we were talking there. Where did the question go? What was the last one? That's subgenres and that you place your books in. What's something that you'd like to attempt in the future, whether it's a genre or a style or a voice? And along with that, what is there something specific that you would love to write, but you haven't been able to yet? So like a character type or something, anything
Well, the easy answer is I do have a Sandalpunk story that I've got loosely outlined, 5-book series that I'm going to write, and the whole series takes place backwards. So each book takes place hundreds of years before the book previous. And so you read, because one character is going, it's going to be timey-wimey. So he'll be hopping back and experiencing each book story. But it's one of those, I need to plot the entire 5-book series to the letter.
Yeah.
And so I can't write it yet, but also I want to finish Collation 10. So once I get past 10, that's actually will be my big, like, I'm hoping I'm big enough that I can dedicate like 4 years to doing nothing but just writing that series. Because I would like
50 books by then.
I know. But I'll get to break my own rules on that one, in that I would like to push the paper, the page count on those. So those ones will probably be minimum 600 pages each, because I really want those to be epic.
Yeah.
And each standalone. That's the other weird thing, is it's going to be 5 standalone books that are part of a series. So that's like the big, like, I really want to attempt. Takes place in a Old Testament inspired setting.
Yeah, that's a good way of phrasing it. I like that.
So when I say stand-up, I mean like Ben-Hur, right? So it'd be like, like it's going to be inspired by, you know, Maccabees, Elijah, David, Moses, Abraham, for reasons. Anyway, the other thing is that my cozy series lets me explore fun things in the first place. So I get to do some really weird characters, and only have to do them once. And it's fun because they're all short. They're all the stories are 50,000 words. So they're very short fantasies. So like, I'm struggling to write one right now that's, I'm pitching it as the office in a dungeon lord's tower that's turned into a theme park. But also, where's the plot now? And it took me a while to actually find the plot. And now I found who is probably the villain in the story that I already started. And then I found the heart about a month ago for what's actually really happening. And so now it's fun because I'm writing from all these different undead points of view, and the whole story is told from the point of view of the villain who's there to shut it down. So I get to do the subversive things, and like I just sent out to beta readers the next cozy, which I finished, which is a band that's in a Battle of the Bards. So I get to do these fun things and explore and say, well, that'd be a fun character. And I don't have to think, how would I fit this character into one of my big series, when I can just say, I'll just write a fast cozy about them and get a chance to do a really fun character, and then they can reoccur, and it's a win-win. So I get to do that's where I get to do my character exploration, is through the cozies. So
it's fun. I think we've kind of touched on those ones. What's something that you found very beneficial to you as a writer?
Consistency. Even when you're lying to yourself.
Yeah.
So like I say that I get up every morning at 5 a.m. and I write for 2 hours or 3.
Yeah.
Am I actually writing 3,500 words a day? Under no circumstance.
Yeah.
I should be able to. If I can write 1,200 words an hour, I should be writing that much. No. But the consistency of, I do get up. Am I getting up at 5 a.m. every morning? No. Sometimes it's 6. But I get up and I sit in my seat, and I have my keyboard in front of me, and I'm there. Having consistency then helps to guilt me into making sure I keep showing up. So like with working out, and also if I'm there and I can start writing words, I'm probably going, and then I'm doing it every day. And it's easy for me because that's now just when I wake up. So it can be 7 days a week. I'm sitting there, not because I'm necessarily working. Maybe I'm just outlining. Maybe it's Sunday morning and I don't want to, and I'm waiting for everybody to wake up. So I'll make breakfast, but I'm still up at 5 a.m., at least sitting for half an hour to a couple hours. And that's my consistency, is knowing that every single day I'm there. So consistency is important. And because the fact is, none of us have time to write. None of us have time to do art. All art. There is no time, because the world hates us for it. The world is very jealous that we're not just watching football every day and with them and going out to barbecues and mowing our lawns. We're being creative. And that's a curse for us and a blessing. But the world is jealous of us doing the thing that everybody says they're going to do. They say every person has one novel in them. No, they don't. just like everybody can't cook, but sometimes the greatest chef is found in a rat.
Yeah.
But the point is that everybody does have a novel in them that they wish they would write.
Yeah.
And they are jealous of us. And so the world will get in our way.
Mm-hmm.
I would say this to young writers too, like in high school too, is if you really, really mean it and you really want to write, set boundaries with your parents in a way that respects them.
Yep. And
they respect you.
Yeah.
So like I was talking to a kid at the last con, and his mom's encouraging him to do school, but also to do a YouTube that he's starting. And I said, make a deal with your mom. She's standing right there looking at me while I'm saying this. And I'm sure she's probably said the exact same thing to him too. But it was like, you get home from school and your rule is you get 1 hour and give your mom your phone. Tell mom, take my phone from me for 1 hour. And from 3 to 4, I'm going to write. And then from 4 to 5 before dinner, I promise I will finish my homework. And if you do that every single day and you write 500 words a day, you will have a 100,000 word manuscript by the end of the year or more. And your mom will be happy because you finished your homework because you're not coming home and doom scrolling in your room.
Yep.
So if you make deals when you're young with your family to respect that sort of thing, not just for the circumstance of having them respect you, but so that you respect yourself, so that you can set those same boundaries with your friends when you leave your house and you're living on your own, and you tell your roommate, here's the deal, Joe, I will be writing from 5 to 7 a.m. He won't care. It's like, but he will when he does care. Or you're an afternoon writer. I will be writing when I get home. I get off work. Don't bother me. Don't ask me to go out. After the 2 hours, I'm yours.
Mm-hmm.
And your roommates, your future spouses, they will respect you if you can set boundaries that take them into consideration as well. They say, well, I'm a writer, so I need 8 hours when I get home. Leave me alone, honey. Like, why'd you call her honey?
Mm-hmm.
You don't care about her.
Yeah.
You're not being respectful of her. But if you respect others, they will have better respect for you. Also, don't take offense at people saying, oh, how do you write so much? I could never do that. Like, I don't understand how you come up with those ideas. And like, when they're saying that, they actually mean it as a sign of respect when they're saying that.
Yeah.
Because they're saying, I don't get it, but I respect it.
Yeah.
But you can flip the script on them and say, but you do, because you memorized every single NFL player in your favorite team.
Right.
And we all do that. That's just part of being humans, is we memorize things and we come up with patterns. And so that's just your thing. And so rather than taking offense at them saying, I don't know how you do that, I can never be creative. And you go, whoa, you sure could be. No, they're creative in their own way. Find that. And you'll find better characters to write yourself, because you're going to write real people that you have met. So, yeah.
Good advice. It's hard. Harder than it sounds.
It is harder than it sounds, but it's just another tool for your toolbox.
Yes. Yeah. Have you ever considered writing for any other sort of medium? I know you used to do theater stuff. So.
Yeah, I've got a couple of plays in my head I'd like to write someday when I get around to it. Would I like to write like screenplays? No, probably not. I think it's too much dialogue for me. Mm-hmm. I've gotten better at dialogue, but I still have that crutch of feeling that my dialogue's not good. Yeah. And I think it's because I internalized telling myself I need to fix my dialogue. I've gotten better because now I'll have reviews say that you write great dialogue, and I'm kind of like, okay, I guess. I don't know. I don't believe it. We all have things that we don't believe about ourselves. People tell it to us, and mine is my writing dialogue. People, well, you great dialogue. I'm like, okay, cool, I guess, because I don't see it. But I think it's because I focused on it so much to get better at it, and because I'm just 20 years older now, that I've just become a better dialogue writer. Does that mean I would want to write 20 hours of dialogue? No, probably not. Mm-hmm. But again, I get to do it in the cozies. So like I have a set of short stories I'm working on. It takes place in a tavern, and I'm pitching it as literally Cheers, but in a fantasy world. Mm-hmm. So it all takes place inside of one bar room. It's all there. And then I was looking at Cheers and saying, how would I write a Cheers episode? Which means I have to write 7,000 words of dialogue, except I'm not. I'm telling a story. So how do I write a Cheers story? So there's times when I don't necessarily want to write in a different medium, but analyzing another medium will help me in my writing as well.
Yeah.
I would write a screenplay like if I was writing like my books into a movie. Then we'll talk to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what happens. Might be 20, 30 years down the line yet, but hopefully not. Hopefully. Ideally, 10.
Yeah,
I think I could.
Let's do it.
Let's work on it.
Yes. You're going to come up with a plan. You're going to get a crew, get a job, keep flying.
Yeah. That's the goal.
That's right.
This isn't so much about your author side, but as it is your performer side, but talk about your audiobook narration a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm also an audiobook narrator. So when we were writing, when my wife and I decided that we were going to go indie. So this was after COVID. My wife already had an agent. We dropped the agent because COVID happened and nobody was buying books. And we said, let's just try this. My wife already had experience as an editor. We knew we could do this. We said at that point, we have to have audiobooks. And she had somebody she was talking to who narrated 3 of her books, and eventually. And I said, I'm going to do it myself. I've done enough stage performance. And yes, when I listen back to my original first books, Thrice and Deathless Beast, I would love to have, but I'll take like a year. I would love to go back and re-record a lot of it because I've learned a lot of lessons since then as a narrator that I can't fix unless I go back and spend, months and months of my time redoing it. Yeah. And who knows if it ever updates anywhere because the audiobooks never update. It's driving me nuts. Anyway, I knew I could do it. I had heard bad narration before. I've heard authors who I never want to hear read before. It's actually one of the reasons I have never read Sanderson's Spaceship trilogy, the YA one, because we heard him read it at a convention and we were so put off we refused to read it because he should not be reading his own books. But it's a convention. Who cares? Okay. So I've heard authors narrate their own stuff that's bad. And I've heard really bad narrators I can't stand. And I said, but I can do this. And also I know what people are supposed to sound like in my head. And I know I can do voices because I spent my whole dating my wife reading books out loud to her. So I knew I could do it. And I also test that to my mom, who read books out loud to me as a kid with voices. And so I came from that background enough that I knew I could pull it off. I just had to try. And I knew it could be bad. So I've told people that I knew I was going to be out $300 for a mic, and a month of my life is the worst that could happen. And I was out $300 because I bought the mic, and I was out a whole month of my life because I had to re-record the whole thing. So I learned a lot of lessons that first month, and I did lose a month of my life. But because of those lessons, I was able to put things in place that make all of my narration edits better, but not faster. I'm still working on getting faster. But I learned a whole bunch. So I narrate, I do voices. I'm going to start probably folding in my family into some of the readings of the cozies. Actually, we're going to re-record some lines for Quaint Creatures, and then all from here out, we're going to kind of use the 4 of us because I have a son and a daughter, wife and me, and we can do all the voices between the 4 of us. I enjoy the performance side of that a lot. Don't enjoy the editing part, but I love the performance part. I love being able to sit in the corner of my room with blankets stapled to the wall and shout at Dane. So there's a lot of fun with that, and it's fun to go in and like play with the effects, and so someone's got a hollow voice or whatever. But so I don't know what more to say about that except I love doing it. Am I great at female voices? No, but there's also tricks that I can do in the editing process to fix some of that without sounding like I'm Meredith's father. Traipsing about in the hills. No. So I enjoy it, and it does help that I have a large vocal range. Like I'm talking in a baritone, but I am a tenor to bass, so I have a pretty large range, and so I can do most accents. There's a few that I won't do, like Australian. But yeah, thank you, Liam.
Well, we're at just about 2 hours here, so I'll wrap it up with just couple last
You got
questions.
2 minutes to ask questions, Leon. So get in there. Yeah.
Well, I won't end it at exactly 2 hours, but let's see where they at. I have them all right here. I thought. Yeah, there they are. For someone who has no idea who you are, has never heard of your books, and has so many other books on their TBRs, why should they read your books?
I don't know.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Because they're fantastic.
Well,
they are, and your audiobook narration. Yeah, they're every single one I have enjoyed. I have loved. I have found things about that I was not expecting, and it's not fair. You're supposed to be the one doing this.
I was going to let you go on for a little bit. So, okay. So
I've got one other thing that I'll add before I hand it back to you. Besides the fact that I have grown as a reader, as a reviewer, as a storyteller from reading them, I've also found a ton of wisdom in them, especially with the two most recent ones that I read, which was Thrice and Fourscore. Joven is a very wise character, and sometimes he doesn't use that wisdom, but I really appreciate what's going into that character and a lot of the stuff that's being said there. But also your exploration of faith in Collation Saga. Those two things, the wisdom and the faith, are very, very well done and very worth reading. So now I'll hand it back to you.
To that point, that hearing that is important to me, but also it is important to me that faith is part of fantasy. Mm-hmm. It's been an irritation to me to see faith, which is part of the human experience, taken out of both science fiction and fantasy. Yep. When fantasy specifically is an examination of the metaphysical. Mm-hmm. It was Steven Erikson, I believe, said in an interview that that fantasy is metaphor made manifest. Mm-hmm. and I love that phrase. Yeah, and that requires that we are examining the metaphysical as well. Right. We can have a whole discussion on science fiction and having it taken out of there, of which people like Rockio are carrying the torch very well for that. Mm-hmm. So I don't need to do that. With fantasy, it's important to me because it is part of the human experience. And what's worse is that when people are taking it out of their own human experience, they're losing a portion of their humanity that is causing a rubber band in society now of those who are now re-seeking the spiritual in whatever form that is. They are. And so I do examine things myself. I do examine my own faith journey, but I'm also leaving breadcrumbs of things that I'm either passed in my experience that I can pass on, not necessarily as wisdom, but just as contextualization, right? Mm-hmm. And so that is very important to me. So so to circle one more circle is that I have had people say before I wrote the cozies that my books were cozy. Mm-hmm. But then Andrew Wizard said that they're cozy, but that's not the right word. And he kind of hemmed and hawed, and then finally came to calling them comforting without saying comfort read. Yeah. And I get that. I totally understand what he means by that. And so I would say if you are somebody who is looking for the classic fantasies of the 80s and 90s, but are not just cookie cutters from the 80s and 90s, that's what I've intentionally written, is something that will make you feel comforting in the same way that a good TV show is. It doesn't have to feel like I'm just watching 80s shows. There are plenty of shows that can be very graphic. Pushing Up Daisies as a great example is comically graphic in its murder mystery element, but it is wildly cozy and comforting. All Creatures Great and Small is wildly comforting. However, the actors are literally birthing cows on camera, and it's real. They are reaching up there and pulling cows out, and you're seeing it on camera. And it's like, that's gross. It's also amazing and awesome and comforting. And so that is something that I do try to capture in my books, and I will give you that in my books. Yeah. That a book that is only 50,000 words, 70,000 words will still feel long, not because I'm meandering and taking way too long to get things done. I would say precisely the opposite. At times I rush things too fast because I'm trying to get to the money shot in my head. And so I if you are looking for books that will comfort you, will never info dump on you, but also will make you feel that you actually sat down to a whole chocolate cake and then let's say a cherry pie. You sat down to a whole cherry pie and then are wondering where the pie went afterwards. That's what I would like to write. Because I have done that before, and it is very enjoyable to spend a whole day eating a whole cherry pie. Not afterwards, but during.
Right.
So yeah, I just made that up right now. So that's what we're gonna say. I write cherry pie. That's what I do. That's what we're gonna go with. Yeah,
it's good. Yeah, that's really good. It helps that pie is my favorite.
Pie is
wonderful. I can't pick a favorite pie, but it is my favorite
you
dessert.
don't need to have a cherry pie. You don't have to have a favorite pie. You can take any leftovers and stick them in a crust, and they just become pie. So just learn to make a good crust.
That is true.
That's how we fed our son, who he was not picky, but if we made one meal, the next day he'd be like, I don't want that. Stick it in a pie, gobble that thing up. So it's like, stick something in a crust. The meal you made the other day, you had stew. The next day, make it into a pie. You had chili, make it into a cornbread pie. Anything can be a pie. Let's be honest. You can put anything in a pie.
I because it kind of ties into the conversations that we've been having and you've been having, and because Lane brings them up. DJ Butler just started a podcast where High Lowbrow is the title of it. And his first episode, he's talking about Lord of the Rings. And it is fantastic.
Big surprise. No.
Right.
Yeah.
So definitely recommend going and watching that because it's fantastic. He has a great discussion. Some things that, I mean, I'm not the most well-read. I'm not the most learned, most wise.
Says the kid who reads, come on, like 50 books a month.
That's not true.
But
he has some things. He brings some things out and it's just the first half of Lord of the Rings, first half of Fellowship. He brings some things out that I have never once considered, but they're so true. They're so obvious. As soon as he says it, you're like, it's right there. But yeah, fantastic. Cool. Definitely recommend listening to that as well. It's got a good discussion on it.
Cool.
All right. Two more questions here.
Okay.
What's next? And that we've talked about a little bit. What's next?
What is next? Okay. Kickstarter.
Yep.
In less than a month now. So the Kickstarter is for Fife and Drum is coming out, right? So there's new covers for all 3 books because the 3rd book's coming out. So that's what the Kickstarter is pitched as, is that it's for Fife and Drum. But we have, there's the camera. So we have Thrice's new cover. Then we have Fourscored's new cover. And then Fife and Drum. It's the 3rd book. All right. So with that release, I am doing something I've said I wouldn't do, and I've decided just for the Kickstarter, we have an omnibus. And it has all 3 books in a single 620 page, so as big as Dread Knight was. Omnibus, it's going to have the special edition is going to have this fun wrap. This shows that it's gray now, but I've already changed it. I have a really great green, yellow, orange fade on the spray from the company, and then inside is a foil, so you can take that off and just have a really nice looking black and silver cover of all 3 books. So if you want to read it as a single sitting, no, you're not going to do a single sitting, but if you want us to read it as a single book, you can. And this is the only way that the omnibus will be available for the foreseeable future, because I don't want to, it's not going to, like, you won't be able to get the omnibus on Amazon, period. Only through that. So that's what's next. That's going to be on, I'm looking at probably April 10th is what we're looking at. I've got a couple more things I'm trying to get done before I really start marketing it. Some pins I have to design for it. Some really nice, like a deluxe, not just like animal pins, like really nice, like Russian art pins I'm working on, which is why it's taking so long, because I'm like agonizing over them. So that's going to be April 10th through the end of the month. and for a release in June, July will be when then all the covers will officially be rollover. Then Baker's Dungeon, which is the second cozy. I've already got art for it, so I'll start showing that off probably around the time I finish the other Kickstarter. But new art. This is by an artist named Irel. Fjell is her name. Fjell, or Under Pale Water is her name, and she did the artwork for Quaint Creatures and for Baker's Dungeon. So Baker's Dungeon takes place in the same city. Two characters who open a pie cart, so more pie around town, and it's dealing with guild wars, and they go on a couple dungeon adventures, and just a fun cozy. So think Legends and Lattes, but actually going on an adventure in the middle of it too. So that one's coming out. And that'll be Kickstarted in August for a Christmas release.
Yeah.
So that's what's coming up in the immediate future, which will take me to 9 books, but I've written the one that will happen after that too. So yeah.
So let's see how many I've read. I've read all 4 collation. I've read
Fleeting
2 Fleeting Word. So that's 5 for collation.
Yeah.
Plus there's 3 coins count.
Yeah, you can count that.
We'll count it. All right.
We'll
So 6 for collation.
Yep.
Then we've got the 2 Needle and Leaf that are out.
Yep.
So we're up to 8.
Yep.
And then
Quaint Creatures.
Quaint Creatures is 9. So I'm at 9 already. Wow.
Yes. Yep. And
you're rapidly. Yes. Rapidly.
So like just to like spoil the future, I've written the 3rd cozy. I'm writing the 4th cozy. At the very like Christmas, I'll write the 5th cozy. But in the meantime, I'm writing short stories in this Cheers story I told you about, because I want to release a short story with each of the cozies, so that by the end of next year there will be 6, because the short stories will be within 1 book of cozy stories. There'll be 6 cozies, and that'll be the end of the first like Marvel MCU arc of 2 that I've got planned for the Sideways Tales. So yeah.
I've also read that sci-fi story that you wrote.
Yes, you have. And the other Heralgren story in the Winter anthology. Yes.
Yep. Yes. So I'm doing good.
Yes. Hey, you know what, Liam? The fact is, I haven't said it. So Tori can take another drink. Set yourself low daily goals that can't be missed. Yeah. Don't set hard goals you can't do. So I set myself a goal of 500 words a day. I don't always meet that, but if I set myself a goal of 500 words a day, we text more than 500 words a day. We text more than 1,000. If you say I'm going to write 500 words a day, chances are you'll write 1,000. And if you write 1,000, you'll probably start writing 2,000 a day. But if all you write is 500 words that you struggled and fought to finish, you have gotten past that hard 500 word stopgap that you didn't get. And so set yourself low goals, and you'll write more than Sanderson. Sanderson does not write as much as people think. Though he was lying, because he then wrote 4 secret books. But he says his word count goal for every month, I think, is 35,000 words, which seems like a lot until you realize that's only 700 words a day. And he spends 4 hours writing and 4 hours editing every night. So it can be done. You just gotta get cracking on it. That's right.
Mm-hmm. Have you? I don't know. Have you read any of Liam's writing?
Not yet. No.
Yeah, I'm impressed every time I read something. I'm impressed.
Awesome.
So, all right. Last question then. Recommend a book. And that can be to me, or that can be to viewers, or that can be whatever.
You've already read Rockio. Okay. You might enjoy this. Okay. So there is a series called Mundane. Mardane. It's by Marshall Ryan Maresca. I'll show you the picture in a minute. I haven't read all of them yet, but he wrote in his first series 10 books. They're all standalone. They all take place in the same city. It's Trad Pub. And they all culminate in the 10th book being like an Avengers story of all the characters from the books working together. So like the first one is basically Batman with magic. So it's a kid at a person, a mage at the college, who then uses it to become a vigilante at night. And like the second one is called The Constabulary and takes place, they're investigating the death of a mage. So it's a cop show. And then the third one is a heist book about two brothers, their houses burn in the first like chapter, and they get a group together to do a heist. And then the fourth one, Way of the Shield, is a paladin story. And he's a street paladin, and each of the paladin groups all have a different weapon they're associated with. So there's our shields. So he's literally a beat cop who's going around defending people in the street. And then the next set of books in that run is like book 2 for each of those. And then the 10th one, they all have to work together. So you end up getting Batman, Captain America, the Heist brothers, so you end up with and he's written now a second series, I think, since then, that starts to finally lead the city a little bit. But it's fun because it's like every single one is 100% standalone. You don't have to, you can read it, but I want to read that one. So read that one. But just don't read the 10th one until you've read the other 9.
Right.
So, but yeah, Ryan Marshall, Ryan Maresca, Meredith. I think the Thorn of Denton Hill is book 1. I have not read that one, but I've read this one and I've read one of the constabulary stories, and they're really fun. Easy, fast reads.
All right. I will find one and get it at least bought so that it's sitting there waiting for me to read. I physically read very slowly. But anyways, that's the questions that I have for you, and we've gone for 2 hours and 15 minutes now. So I'll let the viewers go at the very least.
Yeah, this has been an absolute joy.
I agree.
We need to do it more often.
I've been wanting to have you on for so long, and I think this is the first time I've had you on the channel, actually. But I've wanted to have you on, and I wanted to
We've
talk
been
to
on
you.
other panels together, like with Tori.
Yes,
but
yeah. And I haven't. Part of it is I wanted to get all the books read that you had published, and I didn't think I was going to get caught.
I was trying to stay ahead.
Oh, you'll get.
I know. Yeah.
Anyways, thank you for coming on, and thank you for talking and spending 2 hours with me. So,
likewise,
I will let them all go. I guess I should ask you to tell them where to find you.
So look down in the description below, and then my social media is Andrew D MTH. So if you think Andrew to the nth power, Andrew D to the nth power is how I remember it, but it's shorter, and then trying to write up my whole name. So, and that's everywhere: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I'm everywhere. So,
all right, and then where should they buy your books?
If you want to buy direct, I try to keep books in stock at all times, so you can buy from me. I will of course sign them, and that's andrewdmeredith.com, though the website's down right now because I'm rebuilding it. But if you follow me through Instagram, my link tree does have a link to our store front, which is not down right now, and you can order directly from me, and I am more than happy to sign it. And you just got to let me know if you want me to individualize it to you. But I always keep books in stock. I try to. And if I don't, I will order more to make sure I have them, because I love putting signed copies into your hands.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on. We will at some point do this again, I'm sure.
Yes. To the long road ahead.
Yes. All right. How do I sign off from these? Thank you guys for watching an Erudite Adventure. And then I usually say, stay warm.